Hello, everybody. Today we're going to do the fluid, electrolytes, and acid base. It's a little bit shorter chapter, but it's very important as well. So all this time we've been talking about equilibrium, and fluid is one of them as well. So let's start with body fluids, okay, or a solution. So let's start with solvent first. Okay, we've seen this in AP1 when we did the osmosis. Okay, so water is called a universal solvent. It's the liquid form that you dissolve things into. Okay, a solute, any molecule, and we call this a once it's dissolved, it's a solution, including the easiest would be like salt. Okay, salt would be a solute that can be dissolved into a solvent. But when it comes to be a little bit more specific, okay, salt is actually an electrolyte, because once you dissolve it, it has a charge. Okay, so solute is, let's say, anything solid. Okay, and solvent is the universal water would be the universal solvent. So here is a body composition that contains a lot of water. Okay, infant has 75%, adult 50 to 60, and usually a male will have more water than female, because our brain, our muscle, our things have more water around it. Also, the teeth has the least amount of water. Also, the body weight and the mass index of the male is usually bigger, so that's why male have more water content. So fluid compartment, this is also something that could get people confused. So let's go over it quickly. So there's intracellular fluid, and there is something called extracellular fluid. But if you dissect the word, intra means fluid within the cell, bound by the plasma membrane. Okay, you guys remember the plasma membrane. So if you look at this picture, okay, it is noted by ICF, intracellular fluid, so within the cell. Now, this will be anything outside of the cell would be extracellular fluid, including all this and plasma. But another term for extracellular fluid is the interstitial fluid. So interstitial fluid, it's an extracellular fluid, and plasma is an extracellular fluid. Okay, don't get those confused for the test. Let's see. So intracellular fluid is 60% of the total water, which is 25 liter in male. Generally is compartment stable. Consequence of cell placed in a hypertonic or hypotonic solution. You guys remember what happened? What is a hypertonic solution and what is a hypotonic solution? A hypertonic solution is a solution that has a higher solute. Now again, what is a solute? Just think about salt. Okay, if you put something too salty, it's going to dry out the cell. Okay, you're going to draw all the water out. In a hypotonic solution, of course, it's the opposite, and the cell is going to blow up. Okay, so in the body you have intracellular fluid. All of this is within the cell. Okay, and all these is extracellular fluid. Okay, pretty balanced, just a little bit off. Okay, %40 of the body is water, 20% is this plasma. Other fluid, including the lymph, eyes. Remember, the eyes have aqueous humor and vitreous humor and all that stuff. So here we have a chart. The brown one is intracellular, and then the interstitial fluid, and then plasma. Okay, so this chart, you have to remember this for the test. Okay, extracellular fluid, okay, which is comprised of interstitial fluid and plasma, has high concentration of sodium, chloride, bicarbonate ion, protein is high in plasma. Okay, so the outside of the cells are higher in sodium and all that. Okay, so if you look at sodium, the outside is higher. Okay, chloride outside is higher, but on the inside of the cell, okay, you can see that potassium is higher, and phosphate and protein is higher on the inside. Okay, so that's what this chart means, and you kind of have to remember that the outside has more sodium, inside has more potassium, and so on and so forth. And we remember this chart, okay, with the action potential. Okay, outside has more sodium, inside has more potassium, and when it needs to, okay, the body will pump sodium and potassium out and in and out of the cells. Okay, we also saw this not too long ago with hydrostatic pressure and osmotic pressure. Remember, hydrostatic pressure is just like a hose pushing through water, okay, with holes, and then it's going to push some of the water out. Okay, so the water is going to stay outside, but because there is solute on the inside, not solvent, okay, because there's solute on the inside, the liquid will draw to the solute, okay, and that's how it is absorbed, and then the rest will be absorbed by the lymph nodes. Okay, here is a chart of the picture of the solute. Remember what a solute is. Okay, movement of the solute is passive or active. Okay, it could be both. Remember, the body can push or pull, and then slowly it will leak. Okay, we have examined a lot of this in the classes. Okay, so when it comes to water balance, okay, an adult usually drinks about 2,500 milliliters of water. Okay, that's about how much the body will excrete as well. Okay, using the kidney. Okay, mostly urine. Okay, some sweat, some exhaling, okay, and some through the feces, but mostly through urine. Okay. So who or what is responsible for controlling your intake? Okay. What makes you thirsty? Plasma osmolarity. You guys remember what plasma osmolarity? Let's dissect this word. Plasma, of course, is the substance in the blood, okay, that's floating. Okay, osmolarity, we're mostly talking about the solute, which is the let's just say salt. Okay, salt content in the blood. Okay, so solute of the water to the blood, which is maintained. So if it is when you are thirsty, okay, when you're thirsty, your blood is too concentrated. Okay, when it's too concentrated, it's going to send a the osmolar receptor will be activated and sent to the hypothalamus. Okay, sent to the hypothalamus, and then it will send to the pituitary gland to release ADH. You guys remember what ADH is? It is so that you will retain water. Okay? Oh, here it is. Also release ADH, which retains water, and then it will, your blood barrel receptor, your angiotensin will also sense and be able to know what is your blood pressure, because when you're too dry, okay, when you're too dry, your blood pressure will drop. You will have an increase of resistance in the blood, okay. Now, when it comes to infant, because their body is so small, okay, dehydration is extremely dangerous and it could lead to death. We remember this, okay. ADH is the main water output controller, okay. When plasma osmolarity is low, then ADH decrease because it doesn't need to hold the water. But when the osmolarity is too high, okay, it needs to release ADH so that we can retain water, so we don't lose water. So electrolytes, okay, we have 6 electrolytes that we need to remember. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hydrogen. Okay, that we need to remember because it is right here very important for nerve excitability, endocrine secretion, membrane permeability, buffering control. Okay, so of course they are sodium, potassium, calcium chloride, phosphate, bicarbonate, and hydrogen ion. And most of these will be, if it's, for example, some of the ions, if it's too much, it will leave through the urine. Very little through the through feces, but sometimes it does. Okay, this is for your reference. Now, something to remember as well. Let's start with sodium. Okay, major extracellular cation. So this is the major cation outside of the cells. Okay, that's why on that chart we saw earlier, okay, we talked about sodium. It is on the outside mostly, right? Remember this chart right here. Sodium mainly on the outside. Okay, extracellular. Which one is the intracellular? Potassium. Okay. Major cation extracellular for osmotic pressure and excitability. Hyponatremia, okay, means too little salt. Okay, when you have too little salt, excessive water accumulation usually, but can lose sodium through, can lose